Okay, now let's look at the usage of macros. For that, what I will do is I'll simplify the data set. I'll take two different files. Let's say only up to this. I take it into a new file. I take it into a two new files. In the first file or in one of the files, I'll keep only ICICI Bank. I'll delete the remaining stuff. I'll keep only ICICI Bank. Alright, let me save it as ICICI Bank. And the second file, I'll keep only HDFC Bank. Mouse is not working fine. Sorry. Oh. But I have to delete okay. I can put a filter and I take only HDFC Bank, right? I'll put a filter and select all and I uncheck only HDFC Bank. Then all of these I delete. Let's see if I remove the filter. No, everything is gone. Yeah, this would simplify the process. My mouse is not doing a good job. Okay, delete the rows. Even this ICICI, oh no. So what I'll do is I'll remove the filter. Only up to here I'll delete. And I'll come to the end of this HDFC Bank, and after that I'll use the down arrow. I'll delete. So let's say this is relating to HDFC Bank. Now what I am trying to do here is, let's say now I'll close the HDFC Bank stuff. I'll come back to it required. Even the Excel training, the other file also I'm closing it. Now I'll have only the ICICI Bank file. Now in this, what I want to do is, let me remove all the kinds of formattings and everything on this. The way I remove the formattings is, I go to this home tab, conditional formatting. I'll say clear all rules from the entire sheet. So let's say this is what has cleared the rules. Now this is the sheet on which I want to work. Now let me assume that just like ICICI Bank, I have 100 other files. Just like one I have created for HDFC Bank. Similarly, I can create one for each of the banks or one for each of the companies, some of the companies. Now all of them will have a similar format of the data. Right? All of them will have a similar format of the data, where the first one is a symbol, then date, something like that. And on all the 100 files, I want to do a same analysis. What is the analysis? Probably I want to do something which we have done in the last 2 days. Right? So like I will take only some simple stuff, but you can do it to any kind of complex. So you do some kind of sorting on the data based on, let's say, either daily returns, we'll call it daily returns only, or turnover, something. You sort the data based on the turnover. You do a conditional formatting, which is like top 10 on the daily returns. Just some of the stuff which we have done in the last 2 days. Then you also do, probably you calculate something, right? Average daily return for this company. You do an average daily return, and we also will do if we'll take a simple if statement. If daily return is greater than 0, we'll call it as positive, otherwise we'll call it as negative. So we'll use one if statement also, right? And then we'll count by using COUNTIF. We'll use number of positive and negatives. How many positive days are there and how many negative days are there. And I'll also do some simple what else? Okay, we'll do something like that. You can think of doing any kind. Probably you can compute the month, year, all that kind of stuff also. Or probably let's do a weekday computation also, and do a pivot table. Let's say weekday wise average trades. So you can think of any such kind of activities. We have been using so many features of Excel in the last 2 days. So we can think of doing all those things on all the files which we get. Right? So let me assume that these are some of the activities I want to do. Now, how do we do this entire thing? Because I have to do it on multiple files, the same activity, there is a chance, if I do it manually, there is a chance that I will do some mistakes, inconsistency, all these things are possible. So that's where what we are saying is you record all these activities under one single umbrella. Then you replay that. So it's more and more like the simple way to understand the behavior of this macros in Excel is, macro is more for automation. Like all these steps, you do it once under a recording mode. From next time onwards, you just need to click once, and all the 7-8 activities are performed in one single shot. Right? That's the advantage of going with a macro. Now, recording of a macro can very well be compared with your movie recording with a video player or a mobile or a handicap. Without much knowledge of the software, editing and all that stuff, you can very well record a video. All you need is position it at the right places. Just click the start button on. Until you click the stop button, whatever happens in between those two buttons, everything is recorded and it is replayed any number of times. on any number of devices, not just that mobile. It plays in any other mobile or any other compatible device. Same thing happens with the Excel macro also. You record that macro with a start and stop buttons. Any Excel task that is done between these two buttons is recorded and it can be replayed on any Excel systems. But just as the problems you have with your video recorder, like you want to edit 5 minutes of performance, you have recorded a 20-minute video, problem from 10th minute to 12th minute, there is no way you can edit it from your recorder, either mobile or any powerful handicap. You cannot edit from there. You have to load that video into some video editing software and then you have to edit it there, which means you need to know some software mechanism of that. How do I link the audio with the video? Those kind of activities. Or sometimes you want a kind of mixing, right? Probably the video recorded somewhere, audio recorded somewhere, both of them have to mix up. You can't do them through your mobiles and handycams. You need to do them in the editing softwares itself, right? So this editing software for Excel is VBA. So there are some tasks which is like a recording task which can be done without the understanding of VBA itself, which means that part of automation which can simply be recorded can be done without the knowledge of the software VBA. But if you want to do that mixing, to do that editings, to do that special effects, let's say one person in our typical videos, the people do, right? They take only one photo, but in that video they show probably as a circle of 10 photos of the same person. They show different dimensions of it. Now they are all done as a part of editing. They are not done as a part of recording. Recording is a simple step. But in editing it comes out as if you have done in 10 different positions. So those all are done by the software, for which you need to know the software art. Here that software for that automation is VBA. So which means, what is the way if there is something wrong and I have to edit it? I can't edit in a recorder. The only way is re-record. If I have made a mistake from 10th minute to 12th minute, I have to record right from 1st minute to 20th minute if I don't know how to edit it. Correct? If I don't know, either I leave it like that or re-record it for the whole 20 minutes with your mobile or any other device. But if you know editing, you can only cut that portion of it and replace that portion of it. That is what is the significance of VBA here. The moment I write some automation code like this, automation task, if I want to add something else tomorrow to this automation, probably after 4th step something else should happen. If I cannot do it manually within the same macro, unless I know the VBA editor. Just like you can't add another 2 minutes of video between 10th and 12th minute, you cannot do it without knowing the software for it. But all you can do is you can re-record the entire macro. You can delete the whole macro. You cannot delete some portion of it, but you can delete the whole macro. So probably the best way to understand what can be done without VBA understanding in automation is something similar to a video recording. What you can do through a mobile using the video recorder. All those things exactly can be done with plain Excel without VBA in terms of video record, in terms of macro record. Right? So all these can be done through plain Excel. The only thing is we'll put a recorder on. Right? So let's start doing, and I can play it on multiple devices, which means multiple Excel files I can play this. That part of it we'll look at. So on this data, Before I start any task, I want to record a macro. So the macro is present under the view tab. To the last macros. Here you have record macro. You do a record macro. Give some name. Probably bank data analysis something. And if you want a shortcut key for it, you create it. But don't create a common name like Control C, Control V, because they will not work, only this will work until you delete this. So probably Control capital L. I don't know what to be used for, but not a common one. So probably I'll put it as Control capital L. Control Shift L will take me to capital L. But here it is case sensitive. I have to give it as capital L only to work. Then where should I store this macro? If I say this workbook, then I cannot work on other files. I cannot run this macro on other files. If I have to run it on every file in my system, I save it under personal macro workbook. This is more like this file is a hidden file. Personal macro workbook is a hidden Excel file which lies in the startup folder of Excel. Like Excel, whenever you start Excel from start, it gets loaded from somewhere where it is installed. Within that folder, you will find this personal macro workbook, which is a hidden file. So every time you open Excel, in the background, even this personal macro workbook is also open. So which means the data is available to every Excel file. Right? So that is what is the personal macro workbook. The moment you give these three things, you will get a button here, a kind of option at the down, saying macro is currently recording, click to stop recording. So now whatever you start doing, until you click on it, that is recorded. All Excel tasks which you do now, that entire task is recorded. Right? Now let's do something. I'll put a sort. Some of the things let's do. Simpler task, because to execute a macro, your Excel should be strong. So simple things which we can do, we'll do all those stuff. Let's say I select the whole data, sort, probably on the descending order of, let's say, turnover. Turnover, I say largest to smallest. I'm doing it on the descending order of the turnover. This is what I have got. Then if required, we'll also do a conditional formatting on the data. Okay, on the daily returns, I'll go to home, conditional formatting, probably top 10. I'll put it, let's say, with a whatever. Let it continue with the red color. So 5 of them are here like this, and somewhere some of them are here. These are the top 10 items. And now I'll also do some calculations. Just formulas and usage of formulas. So I'll call it probably as average daily returns. I'll use equal to average, and I will put, let's say, the whole of G column. So I will get the average daily returns as 0.15%. Okay. Then I'll use some if statement, where I will say, I'll use a simple if instead of that so many nested if and all. I'll simply, because you can use it. I mean, just because here the intention is to demonstrate a macro working, I'll use simpler stuff. Okay, I'm saying equal to if. The logical condition is this value, daily return. If it is greater than 0, I'll call it as positive, otherwise call it negative. Very simple. Very simple if condition I am writing. Negative. So all negatives and positives. I want to count the number of negative and positive. Negative and positive. So let's say I can use COUNTIF. So I'll use equal to COUNTIF. The range is the H column and the criteria I will put as negative. So it will count that there are 89 negatives and you drag it down, there are 85 positives in the data. These are the total values. Now, if required quickly, let's plot out a chart also. Right? I mean, instead of pivot tables and all, here let me plot a simple chart. What is that chart? I'll take, let's say this 10 elements or 11 elements in terms of their traded quantity, these two, and I'll plot a simple column chart. So this is the chart which I am plotting. All right. So now let's assume that this is done. You can think of any number of tasks like that. So we have done a few of the tasks, right? Some formulas, some formattings, all this kind of stuff we have done. So let's say we are stopping the macro, which means you can click on this one, which will do a stopping of the macro. Now just to test it out, first of all on this data, whether our macro is recorded properly or not. If it is giving an error, no other alternative, record the whole thing again or understand VBA for that, right? So now just to test out whether it is recording properly or not, delete all your calculations and whatever you have done, remove the conditional formattings, clear rules, and probably sort them on some other mode. Probably sort them on the B column, date. Right, sorted them on this. Now let's see if our macro works. The way you do it is go to the view, macros, view macro. Your macro will be there in the list. Bank data analysis was your macro. Do a run. The whole stuff has been executed, which means that macro is recorded properly. Now, so you can you can very well delete. Now you don't need all these things because it has been recorded as a part of that personal macro workbook. So whenever you want, you will run it, and whenever you don't want, you will simply delete the data. So your data is not exposed to everyone. No big formulas used. So now the best thing is now I have to run the macro on other files. The same macro. Before I run it, see, every time I don't need to go to that view macro, select that macro and do a run. There is other way to do that. What I can do is I'll create one icon for it in the top here. Just like save, undo, redo, which are open, which are available for every Excel file. I'll create one icon for my macro there. The way I do that is I click on this drop down here, go to more commands. I go to more commands. From this popular command drop down, I select macros. My macro name will be here. Bank data analysis. I push it to this side. I modify it to create some kind of icon. Let's say I use this smiley icon. I say okay. Now you see the smiley is visible here. Not only for my file, for all the Excel files which I open now, that smiley will be visible there. And that smiley means that macro bank data analysis macro. Now let's close this. Let's close whole of Excel. It's very important to close whole of Excel because there is one error message, one message which we get. This one. Do you want to save changes you made to the personal macro workbook? Because that workbook is not open, it's a hidden workbook. You have to make the changes, save the changes to it, otherwise it cannot save. So probably you are saying yes. Now you open your fresh file. Which is that fresh file? HDFC Bank, right? You open that HDFC Bank file. This is your HDFC Bank file. Probably if required you remove all the formattings from it. Now you just click on this. You see these numbers were also different. There it was 85, 89 kind of stuff. Here we got 74 and 100. The average daily return came to 0.12%. There it was 0.15. The chart was different, and even you see here the daily returns, here it was actually 5 of them were there in one group for this red highlighting, but here it's not the case. So things are completely different. Probably you can keep both the files side by side and see everything is completely different, right? So what is typically coming out is you can very well have a difference in the data, right? I mean the same thing if you execute on some other file, you'll get something else. And you see, if you have to do it for the second time, it's almost no time. You had just opened the file and you clicked on that icon. That's it. Rest all was done. You don't need to bother. Like that, you just need to open 100 files. See, even that part can be done once you know the VBA. You can open 100 files through one single click and close. After executing the macro, close the file. Another file, open it. So that kind of process will happen through a VBA. But at least through this regular recording process, the moment you just open one Excel file, click on that link there, the whole set of activities you are running on that sheet are automatically executed. That's one advantage with a macro. Anything where you are doing a repeated set of activity on multiple files, the same set of analysis every day on multiple data files, it's better to do the processing like this. You'll save a lot of time, and probably there is a lot of consistency in the analysis. So that is where the macro will be of a much major help for us, especially when we are doing automations across multiple. But of course, not everything can be automated, right? Not everything can be done through plain Excel. As we have said, some formulas which are not there. If I want to devise my own formulas, not possible. Some of the tasks like working with 100 files at the same time, probably those are the things which are not possible with a manual Excel stuff, for which VBA is definitely required. VBA has lots and lots of advantages over Excel. But Excel itself, if you go with this kind of depth, you can save a good amount of time, especially the more and more formulas you are getting a hold of. You can save lots of time because it's a dynamic updation of your output. So which will reduce your time from month to month, from year to year, as and when we are using more and more of these kind of features, right?